Morning. It's good to be here. Thanks.
So, tell us what's going on the ground. Are these murder for hire plots? Is this a one-off, or are you seeing this consistently right now at the Bureau?
It's consistent. It's not a one-off, and it's something that the reason why Director Patel and I were in Chicago yesterday was to address the leadership, that the federal law enforcement leadership that's doing everything they can on the ground to stop it. But we have organized efforts by domestic terrorists, and that's what they are, to do things like box in law enforcement's cars where they can't even move. And as we know from arrests that were made this weekend, some of these men and women that are boxing in these federal law enforcement officers are armed with heavy machinery. And so this is not a peaceful protest. And when those words are used, it's a shameful. Because what we have going on right now is literally domestic terrorism in Chicago. And I'll say something else. The reason why Director Patel and I were there yesterday, and the reason why Attorney General Bondi spoke so strongly about it, is because when President Trump said that he would make every neighborhood safe in this country, this is what he meant. And so when you have local leaders, when you have a mayor who is establishing ICE-free zones instead of standing up for federal law enforcement, when you have a governor who is mocking federal law enforcement doing their job enforcing federal law, that's when President Trump, I guarantee you, he will step in, and that's what we're doing.
But Deputy Attorney General, what is that? What is an ICE-free zone? This is federal law. This is, I don't have to educate you, the Supremacy Clause. You have no right to impede federal law enforcement. And I know that you heard on the ground, the local cops, they support this because the same people that are doing the gangbanging are part of this same criminal enterprise that are going after ICE and the FBI agents on the ground, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you what it is. An ICE-free zone is a place where you can harbor illegal aliens, and that's a crime, and we're looking into that. And you talk about the Latin Kings member who allegedly he was arrested for putting a bounty on the head of a federal law enforcement officer. That obviously puts law enforcement in danger. But the same, when you're a local leader and you establish ICE-free zones, you are putting law enforcement in danger. When you are a governor and you're mocking and criticizing federal law enforcement, you are putting law enforcement in danger. Attorney General Bondi yesterday at our hearing said something that is so true, and it bears repeating right now, which is that we wish that the leaders in Chicago and the leaders in Illinois would love their city as much as they hate Donald Trump. Because I'll tell you something, Donald Trump loves that city. The reason why our men and women are away from their families and they're putting their lives on the line every day is because of their love for that city and that community. And it's heartbreaking to see what the local leaders are doing in response to this just because they don't like President Trump.
Yeah, Mr. Deputy Attorney, were you able to get to the bottom of who's told the officers to stand down? As law enforcement, you get a 1033, you show up to back up cops. And it's clear that the local cops wanted to assist. But who in the leadership sent that call?
We're going to get to the bottom of it, of course, and it's because you could not be more right. One thing that we learned yesterday is that the local men and women, the men and women on the streets, they want to help. They want to be supporting their fellow officers, which should not be surprising to anybody watching this show. And it's really the leadership, whether that's the leadership at the police department or the mayor or the city council or a combination of all three. We're looking at that, but it's really part of a resistance, domestic terrorism resistance that we see happening in this country. Is funded by organizations that just want to harm this country. They're well financed, they're well organized. It is not a coincidence that dozens of armed protesters show up wearing the same clothing with exactly the same black umbrellas. That doesn't just happen by luck of the draw. It happens because there's armed organizations, financial backing. And that's what the Department of Justice is completely committed to uncovering, and that's what President Trump directed us to do, and we are more than happy to do it because it needs to be done.
Well, you also are dedicated to equal application of the law, and former director of the FBI, James Comey, is getting ready to see the other side of the justice system. He's going to be arraigned today. He's facing false statement within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the U.S. government and obstruction of a congressional proceedings. Some have criticized this department under your leadership and Pam Bondi's leadership, but is this just equal application of the law?
Of course it is. That's absolutely when Attorney General Bondi talked about it yesterday, and we say it from every time that we speak at this department. We completely got rid of the weaponization that took place over the past 4 years in this Department of Justice, and now we are applying the law equally to everybody, and that means rooting out corruption. Of course it does, and so yes, Mr. Comey will be arraigned today in federal court in Virginia, like thousands of individuals in this country every year who are charged with committing crimes, and he's being treated exactly like every other individual in his position.
Todd, they're wrapping me, but real quickly, will there be more charges? Because my sources tell me there's still more on Comey, but this is the first step.
Well, I'm not going to talk about ongoing investigations. I know that's not what you're asking me to do, but whether there'll be more charges, I can tell you this: we are not worried about the political blowback, if any, of us doing our jobs. So we will continue to investigate every day. Director Patel, Attorney General Bondi, all of our federal law enforcement are working hard every day to uncover crimes, whether they're taking place today or over the past 4 years.
The Deputy Attorney General for the United States, Todd Blanchard. Thank you, sir.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.